Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Post Narcissist. I'm glad that you found us here on YouTube and have joined our tribe of survivors. Today I really want to dive into the subject of being an empath with a narcissist. And I apologize, my voice is a little scratchy. It's very early in the morning here, but I feel like I need to kind of get this talk out. So, I am an empath, and I know a lot of you are as well, even if you kind of don't know it. I didn't know that all my personality traits were categorized all within being an empath. I just thought I was who I was. I'm oversensitive. I feel like I need to save the world. Uh, you know, and there's a lot of people like that. And I've never really heard the term empath until I really started diving into why my relationship with my ex fell apart overnight. So, for those of you that are new to the term empath, it's in short basically a person that really takes on the emotions of everyone around them almost psychically. So if they're in a group of people that are all happy and feeling good, an empathic person can't help but feel amazing as well with them. But it goes the opposite way too. If they're in a crowd of people that are very angry, even if it's not affecting the empath and they have nothing to do with it, they will take on those emotions as well. And I've experienced this over and over again. I can give you so many examples, but most of them happened when I had no idea that it was because I was an empath. Like why I got drawn to places that always made, I get drawn to places where everyone is like really happy. Like when I was very young, I worked in nightclubs because everyone was having such a great time. I enjoyed going to work because it was so much fun every night, right? And then, but when I'm with people that are upset, it's almost as if I had a hair trigger for why I would get upset sometimes. And that happens with empaths as well. So everyone thinks that empaths are just always either really happy or crying or, like being an empath is not just being empathetic. Being an empath it doesn't matter what emotion is around them. They just take it on as their own personal experience. And a lot of times we don't know why that's even happening. And so, as I learn more and more about being an empath, everything really makes so much more sense to me. Like, for instance, one time I was in my car and there all of a sudden was a traffic jam, and it was a traffic jam at a time where there shouldn't have been one. But I really, I didn't have anywhere really to go. It didn't matter what time I got home, and it was just, but oh my God, all of a sudden I got to the point where I was almost hyperventilating in my car. I needed to get out of that situation immediately. But, everyone else is stuck in the same traffic. We're just going. But I think I was really feeling the energies of everyone in everyone's car, frustrated and upset. And I'm like, so it wasn't me, it was everyone else, right? Like things like that. And you might pass those moments by as, well, that's how everyone would feel. I'm like, no, I had no reason to be upset at that moment. I even had so like empaths they'll get upset at times, and but as soon as they're out of the situation, it subsides right away. And it might not even be something that's directly affecting you. So something happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I was in Manhattan, and I was at a place with one of my girlfriends, and we had taken an Uber there, and she on her account, and so we were moving location, and I was getting an Uber on my account on my phone. And it was just a relaxed evening, right? There was nothing really going on. It was, I think, a Wednesday, so there was nothing really happening. But as soon as we left the first location, and my phone was leading me in the exact opposite direction of where I needed to go to catch the Uber, because it was an Uber pool. And I'm just sitting there, I'm looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I just got extremely frustrated and extremely upset, to the point where I had to hand my phone to my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm not getting why my phone's not working. I can't believe now we just finished walking, 2 blocks in like the wrong direction. We got to go all the way back. And I was getting, in a moment's notice, all of a sudden I got upset when I'm just having a nice, happy evening, and for no reason I got upset just because I walked 2 blocks wrong, which doesn't make sense, which is not really my personality. And even my friend is looking at me going, relax, like we're going here. I'm like basically stomping my feet the whole time. I'm all of a sudden very upset, and we're looking for the Uber, and I'm almost overwhelmed, being very upset and frustrated. And just then, it was like there was this park in Manhattan, and something was going on in that park, and all of a sudden there was yelling and a scuffle, and I'm like, oh great, I'm gonna get shot on a Wednesday night, in Soho. And so I'm like, oh my God, and I go to my girlfriend, we have to get out of here. Like someone's gonna start firing a gun. And we found the Uber, we jumped in, and I'm trying to like concentrate on my breathing. But as soon as we drove like 4 blocks away, all of a sudden it was just gone. My whole demeanor changed, and I was back to my happy self again. And I realized, I'm like, and my girlfriend's kind of looking at me, and I'm like, I kind of had to explain to her a little bit. I'm like, listen, do you know what an empath is? And that was the first time, I swear to God, I affected my phone, like my electronics was even trying to get me away from a situation that was not good for me, that was, bad energies type thing, and bad people upset. And so I had nothing to do with everyone else who was upset, but just me being in that environment, I'm telling you, I felt it. So I don't know if I'm just getting, I know I'm a severe empath, right? And anyone else who's listening, if you are a severe empath, we're the ones that fall victim to the narcissist, okay? And I'll kind of, go through those a little bit, because we take on the energies of everyone around us so easily, like it's our own, we automatically want to save the world, because if we can make someone else feel good or happy, we are automatically happy. That's why we're so careful not to like hurt anyone's feelings, because we're just going to be hurting ourselves, and we'll feel their pain just as much, if not more, than they do almost. And that's what being an empath is. And that's one of the traits of why this relationship is so dangerous for us. So if because we want to save the world. We don't feel good unless we're doing something good or making someone else feel good. So, but the narcissist is like pretending that they too want to save the world. So when you're with a narc, you don't have a partner or a confidant. You have a villain, because they're wearing this veil that they want to save the world, but they're actually just wanting to suck it dry instead of replenishing it. Like, so it's an illusion when you team up with a narcissist that they're really not wanting the same things that you want. They're actually selfishly wanting to take the happiness from people instead of wanting to give it. And that's a little bit of a dynamic that goes on. So like, and a narcissist will, they know, they can see that you have this trait, and so a lot of times they play the victim all the time in order to get you to try to like help them and make them feel good. And this will happen very early on in the relationship, and they'll recognize this, and that's one of the things that kind of bonds you together a little bit at the very beginning, when they can see that this is something that you do, that you purposely try to help and make someone feel good. They're gonna, because they're the villain, they're going to latch on to that, right? And so we even after we find out, we kind of see the mask slipping from the narcissist and see who they truly are, our first reaction is really to try to help them even more sometimes. When their mask very first slips, I'm like, well, I can love them out of whatever it is that they're going through, right? Like this, and we'll go back to the love bombing stage, like as soon as that mask slips, we're like, I'm gonna like almost love them out of their condition of this narcissistic trait. And it's a futile battle because a narcissist cannot change. They don't know how to give the same way that you are. They only know how to take. And so they're just going to keep taking from you your happiness, your work. You're trying to comfort and love them and hold their relationship together. It ends up being more and more you taking on and trying to save the relationship while they just keep taking everything you are, and then look at you like you're disposable all of a sudden. Because eventually, as an empath, we'll get so depleted because we don't know how to stop. It comes to the point where we start damaging ourselves in order trying to save something else, and they do not appreciate. A narcissist does not appreciate your love. They feel entitled to it, and they really don't think that they need to match everything that you're putting into the relationship. Instead, they feel entitled to it, and this is a horrible combination. And that's why, a lot of you out there are empaths and might not even know it, because especially being the main source of supply for a narcissist, they usually, whether they know it or not, are going to seek out an empath because they can get the fuel source will simply last longer in those relationships. So they'll invest in love bomb it even harder in order to kind of be stabilized for a long period of time. So if you're someone that was with a narcissist sometimes for more than a decade, 2 decades, well, that just means that you probably were a severe empath and had that much fuel because you were trying to always nurture the relationship on your end and on their end, thinking that you can save it, because if you can save it and make the relationship good again, you're going to feel so good. And that's what your perspective is. But the narcissist is looking at the relationship going, they feel entitled to everything that you have until there's nothing left, and then they're going to dispose you and leave. But you don't know that when you're in the relationship. You really don't have those realizations until much later. So that's why there's so many kind of channels like this and support groups, and because the innards of the empath and narcissist relationship are so damaging to the empath that it takes them so long to try to figure out what went wrong and to recover from it. It's not just someone, and I don't mean to demeaning like anyone else's relationship, but the damage that can go on to an individual who comes across a narcissist is so severe because of the factors inside it. It's very hard to explain to someone who either isn't an empath or someone who maybe they're not an empath, but they still became a victim of a narcissist. The dynamics inside it are hard to come across and explain to others who who haven't been in it. So, I'm learning more and more and more about what an empathic person goes through and is. And I just thought that, I even feel the sensitivities of animals. When I can tell when not just when an animal is happy or sad, and that's why I'm attracted to animals, because I love having cats and dogs and everything around me, and it's so nice. But if my neighbor's dog, or if there's a dog in the neighborhood that is barking, not just barking because, another dog walked by, but is barking because for whatever reason, like they're running low on water, or they want back in the house. Like a dog that's barking as a stressful bark affects me way too much. Or a baby crying, things like that. And I remember my mom always saying to me, well, just ignore it. I'm like, I can't ignore it. Where's that dog? Something's going on. Like, and I feel like I need to go find this dog and find out why it's barking so we can get it to stop, because it's stressed. And now I'm stressed, even though this is probably a dog at like 10 houses down. And it affects me just the same. And everyone just looks like, oh, you're so sensitive. Like, just relax. I'm like, I don't know how everyone else can relax while they hear that. And even my mom goes, you know what? If you never said anything, I would have never noticed. And so it's not just people, it's animals too. And same with, babies. If a baby is crying somewhere, I feel like very much the need to go figure out what's going on. And I feel like I need to go running to that baby. It's like, baby, is it hungry? Is it? So it's just, we always just like basically want to save humanity and all the animals of the world. And if we come across a narcissist, they'll mirror that persona and personality type of you. They'll mirror it in order to make you feel like you've got all of a sudden like a twin flame soulmate, like we're the same. And you're like, oh, thank God I found you, because you do that, I do that. And so at the beginning of the relationship, it's almost as if a narcissist will pretend to be an empath in order to be perfectly aligned with you at the beginning. And that's why also the love bombing stage can be so intense, because you think that you found your twin flame. You think you found your one and only soulmate, and they're matching and doing everything with you, and you're able to have like conversations about, because like an empath loves like talking about the issues with the world and how we can make it better, or they just like talking about like just humanity itself and things that can help it. Like, and that's why a lot of empaths were always in like yoga classes and things like that. We tend to do a lot of stuff like that because everyone there really feels good, and then you feel good, and we probably feel more amazing coming out of a yoga class than most people, even, I would say, but when we come across a narcissist that will pretend or fake being just like us, we really feel euphoric with it, because we don't come across someone like that very often that can be just like us and feel just like that and be interested and do things that make us feel good and have such understanding. And so we get even more devastated when we found out that it was all a lie, and that we were just looking in a mirror, and all of a sudden the mirror cracked, and all of a sudden the whole thing dropped, and I'm like, oh, there's a monster behind the mirror, and they put the mirror down. It's not even them wearing a mask. It's them holding up a mirror in front of their face, and you looking into it thinking that you're seeing, the same thing that you're putting out, type thing, is what the dynamic is at the beginning of a narcissist empathic relationship. And it's so intense, and the love bombing and the falling in love is so intense because you thought you had your twin flame, and to find out that they were faking it. And we don't really feel, and everyone thinks that, well, if narcissists are such bad people and you can feel bad people or frustrated people, how come we couldn't detect it? And there's a few answers for that. First of all, just because someone is, if someone's behaving badly or going through a hard time or yelling or whatever the situation is when things are falling apart, a relationship or with anybody who's having a really hard time, we're actually more drawn to that because we want to save it and we want to help them. And if we can have someone that feels really bad all of a sudden feel good, then we feel good. But if we ignore them and ignore those situations, it will make us feel even worse. So that's one reason that we don't detect, or even if we detect the narcissist, we're trying to save them. We think that if we love them enough for two and show them happiness and like, as I really think, people like us, we have such a rarity of love that we can offer that's really just almost, it can be limitless. And, when you find someone else that you think that can be saved and you have enough to give, you can love them out of their condition. And it's the devastating moment when you find out that, first of all, a narcissist can't change and they will never stop taking your love. And then they look at it as they're entitled to it. And they're even entitled to dispose of you and move on to someone else with complete disregard. That's devastating. And that's what happens in this relationship. Another reason why we never really detected the evilness of a narcissist is because they have the one thing that is like, I look at a narcissist and an empath, like the narcissist is a perfect sphere of a silver ball that is like a full mirror sphere. So, and they put on that. So they're going to just take on and have the reflection of everything around them. They're not this like flaming ball of evil. Instead, they're this perfect, silver sphere mirror. And so if we put love on that, it just bounces off and we get love back. So we never detected their evilness, right? Like we can detect evil in pretty much everyone else because a narcissist is the only one that's the silver ball. Everyone else is, the different colors of the rainbow, type thing. And we can detect how everyone else is feeling that way. And I hope that makes sense to anybody listening. I know it's a weird metaphor. So but that's why we never, even though we can kind of tell how everyone else is feeling and get like the real true sense of someone, the narcissist was the one person we couldn't. For that reason. And this is like basically on purpose. They hold that personality and they develop that because I think they know I wonder if they know they're so evil. They can't let anyone see that. So they develop the skill to turn themselves into this like silver reflecting ball so no one will see their true self. And they're also just able to take on the personalities of everyone else around them to fit in and not having anyone detect who they truly are. So that's like what happens when an empathic person meets a narcissist. And I know this is a little bit of a long talk, and I do want to answer a lot of the questions that people are asking me about. I don't really understand what an empath is, so I'm going to do more talks about it. But I just want to end this note and this very long talk that I normally don't do. But I want to end it with just saying that the great thing about being an empath is that doesn't matter how long we were with a narcissist or how much damage went on or what, because sometimes we feel like we got absolutely destroyed because we got so depleted from the love vampire. We don't worry, because the one thing an empath can do is replenish themselves fully, and be the vibrant person we were before that has so much love to give. Empaths have that ability. We don't stay broken. It might take us a long time to recover after being in a relationship with a narcissist, but we are an individual that has the full ability to rise up and replenish and be full again. Not everyone. If you're not an empath, like, or there are relationships out there that, they harbor the damage all the time, and they feel like they can never love again because because it was so bad. But take on like the empathic traits and you can replenish yourself fully. So that's kind of like the hopeful thing that I've learned as well. As an empath, I'm like, I can regenerate myself completely. So I love that part about being an empath as well. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to this extremely long talk. My voice is starting to clear up a little bit now that I've woken up a little. But please leave me your comments. I'd love to hear, I told you guys that story about, me trying to catch an Uber and, and being put in the middle of a gang fight in Manhattan. But I'd love to hear like stories or anything that you guys have as insight about being an empath, because I learn more and more every day about it, and I think it helps me more and more every day, and I become more aware, and I'm not as hard on myself anymore for the emotions that I take on. I'm trying to look at it more as having a gift instead of, being tortured by the world's emotions, if that makes sense. So thank you so much. I'm glad you guys all found us here on YouTube and have joined our tribe, Post Narcissist.